Hello, this is David Orozco, registered dietitian and wellness consultant, and I am here for part two of the smoking cessation class. So last week what we did is we talked about what smoking is, the three reasons we get hooked to smoking, and they are nicotine addiction, habit, and the psychological. Psychological also means emotional, social, connections. We also talked a little bit about what to start doing with nicotine replacement therapies at this point. And we also talked about how to do some kind of warm chicken approach versus a cold turkey. And what you want to do is you want to start 2 weeks prior to a quit date. Pick a quit date. And in those 2 weeks, with a guided lesson plan, you want to start switching the brand of cigarette smoke so you decrease the amount of nicotine. So cigarettes come in different nicotine levels. They start at 1.8 milligrams per cigarette, and they go all the way to different brands down to 0.2 milligrams per cigarette. So depending on how many cigarettes you smoke, you switch depending on that level 2 weeks prior. And it's important to do the brand switching versus smoking less or smoking more. You should be smoking the same amount of cigarettes that you usually smoke, so it gives your body the ability to reduce the amount of nicotine level slowly. If you stop smoking so many cigarettes and think, okay, I'm going to get an upper hand on this, what tends to happen is you get stronger urges, and we don't have enough tools yet within the first 2 weeks to get you to work on the withdrawal symptoms. And that's one of the reasons why it's so important to follow the same cigarette pattern. The other thing is on week 2, which is this part of the program, is just before your quit date, we start learning about methods of coping. Methods of coping include using some form of relaxation CD or meditation CD or hypnosis CD that helps you focus in on your mind, especially in the evenings when you're at home and alone, to help you, number one, unwind and relax. Number two, help hearing sort of a mantra or a motto in your mind that goes over and over and over again, and it starts actually breaking the paths of withdrawal, meaning it allows you to, when an urge comes the next time, it allows you to be able to be present. It's one of the very important things to understand when you're quitting or when you become a non-smoker, is that withdrawals only last 3 to 5 minutes. That is so important because, like alcoholics, for example, they'll always tell you the reason they are successful at not drinking is because they take 1 day at a time. So if you break it down that way, 3 to 5 minutes is what an urge lasts, and 1 day at a time. And know that on your quit date, it's going to last 72 hours, which are the greatest withdrawal time. The next milestone is 2 weeks. The next milestone after that is 6 weeks. And then usually after that, it's about 3 months to 6 months. So, but generally speaking, the first 2 milestones are the biggest, 72 hours and 2 weeks. Okay? What happens is, by using the 3 to 5 minute, understanding that our urge lasts 3 to 5 minutes allows you to be able to use the tools that we have in the arsenal of tools to help you overcome that withdrawal. With the nicotine replacement therapies, whether you're using the Zyban or bupropion, the Chantix, or if you're using the patches or the gums or the lozenges, what you want to do is use it in a way that works best for you. You want to work with your doctor if you're using the medication. You could also use medication along with the patch. We just discussed how important it is that you can use medication and the patch as well, or you can use the gum. I like to have people use the gum, the Nicorette gum, as a good alternative because an urge only lasts 3 to 5 minutes. And a gum is a good alternative to put something in your mouth to help you curb that urge. As I mentioned, the next point forward is really working on the coping mechanism. Really working on what's important in order to help you overcome urges, but more importantly, help you know when urges might happen because you can see the triggers coming before they happen. So a good example that you and I discussed was an email.
Yeah.
Emails are definitely something that actually stays in our minds for quite a bit. Let me give you an example from a personal standpoint. A couple of nights ago, I made the mistake of going on my computer about an hour before going to bed and checking my email. And I got an email, it wasn't anything bad, but I got an email from a client that had asked me to do a meeting. And I thought, oh my gosh, did I forget to do the meeting? And I thought, well, it's too late to send the email now. A whole bunch of thoughts went through my mind. The point of all of this, doesn't matter what kind of email I got. The point of this is that at 3 in the morning, I woke up, and I woke up because I needed to go to the bathroom, because that night I had an extra cup of tea, bedtime tea, to help me sleep through the night because my daughter is getting sick and I want to prevent myself from getting sick. And I know a good herbal tea that helps me enhance my immune system. So I made the mistake of drinking it an hour right before going to bed. So of course by 3 a.m. I was ready to go to the bathroom. But the problem was that usually I can kind of sleep through it a little bit. This time no. It woke me up enough, something woke me up, and now I had to go to the bathroom, and now the email went through my head.
Yeah.
And it just kept me up. So the idea is that you want to look at what triggers. So if checking emails late at night is one of them, or if going somewhere in your house is a trigger, or if doing something around your kind of social area is a trigger. The key here is to know when those triggers are going to happen. And like, for example, getting in the car. This is in the morning and getting in the car. These are the two areas that I see smokers have the greatest habit. There's not so much a strong nicotine urge as much as the habit. I get in my car, so I spark up a cigarette.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I tell people to do is take a different route home when they get in the car. So when you do this, it builds greater awareness because you're not on the same roads. When you're driving on the same roads, it's like being a pilot on your plane. You put it on autopilot and you get home and then you realize, oh, I didn't even recognize, the streets or anything, because you almost know exactly where you're going. You know the lights, you know the streets. It's like sometimes when you're going somewhere else, for example, but you take the same route that you would normally take home, but you needed to go somewhere else, and you're going home and you go, oh, I didn't need to go this way. It's because you're on this autopilot. So the same thing happens whether you're at work or you're at home or you're at a party. If you know yourself as an autopilot because you're doing the same things, take a different route. You get an email from someone, take a different route. Don't check your email at that time because at this time of the day, that's when the majority of the emails that you get do a little something different. And the key here is, know something that's very important. Going forward, this is especially important with coping, is being present. Whenever you're present, being present cannot coexist with thinking of the future or thinking of the past. Just, you can't. You think of the future and the past in the present to help you get to where your goals are. It's not to say that you can't think of the future, you can't think of the past. But an urge to smoke creates a situation where you're constantly thinking of the future. You're worried about the email, you're worried about what someone's going to say, you're worried about the deadline, you're worried about how much it's going to cost, you're worried about your car, you're worried about blah, 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 so on and so forth.
He's stressing me out.
This makes me think of dieting, too.
It's the exact same thing, yes. Dieting is exactly the same way. But that's one of the reasons why when people are quitting or becoming non-smokers, you don't want to work on diet at the same time because it's just too much all at one time. So lastly, I want to remind you what's really important. It is having the commitment to becoming a non-smoker. Number one, I almost said to becoming a smoker. Having the commitment to becoming a non-smoker. And committing to new coping mechanisms. Okay? That's really, really what's key going forward. Any questions?
Nope.
No? Okay. All right, that's it.